No, we can't do that because there's no sun out that way.
You ain't gonna be in it?
No, I'm the interviewer. I'm asking questions.
Okay.
You're asking questions.
Yeah.
Now keep them clean.
Come on now. I don't know. Tell me how your journey to the lake started, where the idea came from, what made you decide to come up here, and how things started here on the lake.
Well, it never really started here, but
Started on the lake though.
started
on
on,
Wolf Point.
well,
How
yeah,
that
but
happened.
I mean, the love for the water. I mean, you know, Mom and Dad always had the trailer over at Bruce Lake, and
So
then
he
when
loved
they
the
sold
water.
that, and we'd come up to Grops or something, we'd always go around the lake here or there, and then
Well, let's
we
put
seen-
it this way, very specifically. When your dad would get bored, he'd want to take a drive. He does now. You know how he likes to go different directions, different places? Well, and he always liked to go around the lake. So we really hadn't been around this lake for a while. It was the 4th of July weekend. And so he decided we should come up and just drive around.
This is approximately when?
1988.
Okay.
And that 4th of July weekend was when Sharon Scobie was starting to sell her cottages because the sewers were going to go in.
Down there on Wolf Point.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And so we went around and saw the for sale sign, and we saw several around the lake. One
we
over
looked
on
at
the
the
east
Quacker
shore,
box over there.
and one over here that Brubaker's ended
Oh,
up
we
buying
looked at
and tearing down.
Brubaker's, yeah, but that was a tear down.
Yeah, it
We
was a
didn't want to
tear
get
down.
into that.
And of course we liked.
Could have bought that for a lot less. I think they only wanted like 11.5 or something like that for it.
Yeah, but-
Well, yeah, you think that cottage leans over there? This one was really bad. It was all but falling down.
Yeah.
But the whole thing here was just like our whole life. We like to buy a house, but we want somebody else to help pay for it.
Yeah.
So we saw this one was the cottage for summer use only, but it had the year-round rental in the back.
Yeah.
And it was what, 5?
34.5.
And so it needed stuff, but Dad's good at that stuff. And so we went home and talked about it, and we called Dorothy. And you know, Dorothy wouldn't finance that for us, which she said she didn't want to go in that deep with us. So we were able to get other financing.
No, we talked to her about it, but yeah, we were doing good at that point. We really didn't.
No, we didn't really think she should finance it for us, but because she already had our house in Logan. But so that's how we actually found it. Was Dad being
Just
bored?
out on a drive.
Just out on a drive on a long weekend, nothing else to do, and we saw it. And so we started making calls and inquiries and figuring out how the finances would work. But Dad has always loved the water.
We couldn't get into it till after Labor Day because she had it rented all summer.
Okay.
And that after Labor Day, that's when we came up and my God, was that when Mother invited her friends up, or was it the next
No, it
summer?
had to be the next year.
Next
We
year.
built the pier. Dad and I built the pier we're still using here.
Yeah.
Stuff. But yeah, the next summer is when your mom decided to invite the whole family and not tell everybody.
Don't tell us.
That was in '89.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how we, and listen, in '88 when we bought, it was so dry that you could see land almost out to the buoy. And then we had duck lilies.
Where was that? It was
And,
about 4 feet off the seawall. The water got that low
Yeah.
that year.
Now
Yeah.
we had a
Oh,
bunch
never
of, we
remember
had,
But it's never been that low since then.
Yeah.
Never.
but we had patches of, what are they called? The lily pads out in front of us.
The whole
and-
front of
yeah.
out there was all lily
pretty
pads.
cool.
You had to go out this way or this way. There was no straight out.
I do remember that when I was real little. Didn't last
That
real long,
lasted
but
about 3 years.
yeah.
You know, it was just a little less every year.
But you could tell it was a cottage that people rented, and you know wasn't really taken very good care of.
Well, we didn't
And,
buy it
that's
for
not why
living
we-
in. We always thought, we thought about the possibility of turning it down and building another one sometime until this place came.
Yeah.
But no, that was perfect for us because we were in a really good neighborhood. The neighbors knew you guys and liked you, and
Well,
when
that's
we
how
started,
Becky started working for us, and Millers and Grubes and Bellows was down there. All those
that's
girls.
their name,
Oh,
Bellows. I
I forgot
forgot.
about
And
Yeah.
then the
Carter.
Hornsteins.
Ornsteins, yep, we met them all.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
89. That's 35 years.
Yeah. Well, you figure we bought it in August, wasn't it? Wasn't that when the deal went through in August of '88?
Well, I just know we started the stuff. Probably by the time everything through, it might have been probably 1st of August, but we couldn't get possession till after Labor Day.
Yeah, because '89 would have been the first full season,
Yes.
and then that was until what, '90 that you moved over here?
No,
No,
we didn't move over
90.
here.
We bought this in 92, 91,
Yeah.
But that was late. Then to spend all that winter fixing that up cottage
Yeah.
to move into.
While this was being built.
Well, no, he had to. It was a garage.
We
You were
rented
told.
it.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that, but had to make it so we could live in that one while this one was being built.
Yeah, we had a plan. So let's see, we started it off. Let's see, that was the year 93 when we moved over here because it was ready. And then after the summer rental, we sold the house in Logansport in July that year. Then we sold the cottages to Carter's. And then with the agreement that we wouldn't move until after the summer was over.
Right.
And then when you guys started school, you started school from this little house.
Yeah, starting in
93.
Yeah, fall of 93.
So that's when we moved to this property. But when you figure, we bought this whole property and all the work that Dad's done on it, and all of us really, because you and Hillary and I helped with it a lot.
Well, Dougie came to work. You know, we'd always come by here and thought this would be a nice property, but you know, at 150-some thousand they wanted for it back then.
Well, we used to go on the pontoons, Zach, and we'd drive around here and we'd dream about it. That's where it started, the dream.
And then Dougie came by one day to work and said, "Hey, that property come up for sale." And we came up and we figured about what we could make off the cottages and this and that, and we just made a price. We started at 125. Thought that was ridiculous. And we talked to Dorothy, and because we were selling the house, she let us carry that over to build this one, and then she financed the initial 130.
Yeah.
But that's what we ended up getting.
Well, because she said, "I'll go 125," and we ended up having to go to 130, and we paid that 5,000.
Yeah.
But when the realtor come over and says, he just wanted to say, "Why did you offer such a low price?" And we just explained to him, "This is what you can get out of this one." And he says, "Well, the lot's worth something." I says, "Right now it's a liability." I says, "If we can't buy it if it can't pay for itself." And he went back to him and come back and said, "Can you do 130?" And then we bought it. So we got them down about 25,000. I think around like 156 or something like that.
But the important thing to realize, Zach, is the dreams that Dad always had and how he'd dream a big thing. And then I just listened to him for days and months and years. But when we would drive around here on the pontoon and we would look at this property, it was so beautiful. It had big, beautiful trees, big green yard. It was a flat lot, and it was so big, and it had rentals. Okay,
Some income potential.
Well, it had all the right things. I mean, it had every checkpoint.
And then Dorothy said she would help us. And did we get it for 130 or did we actually go to 135?
No, she financed 125. She said, "I'll go." When we talked to her, we hadn't finalized. She says, "I'll go 125 on it, but that's all I'll go." So, if you have to go any higher, then you'll have to come up with that money.
Yeah, and then she let us set the payment. She really was a blessing to us. You know, Earl had died at that point, but
And
yeah,
like that,
that's how
even
it
at
happened.
that, we were probably paying, you know, compared to now, it was probably 6.
It was 6.5% interest.
Yeah, because banks were charging 8.5. She'd always have us go to the bank, and then she'd just charge us 2% less than the bank.
That's a good deal to have.
But think about it though, we set the payment at $800 a month. Yeah.
And then we
At
still had
6.5.
our original house payment on this when we built it. Cause she just kept that money because she'd already loaned that to us.
She had the mortgage to our house on 25.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we sold that for, we was able to build this.
Well, and the thing was, when we decided to build this, we separated the properties first because we didn't want our part to share with the rental part.
I mean, we share it, but that way it's two independent properties that are together, but they can be sold
Services are
independently.
billed differently.
And so basically, though, she did end up going ahead and loaning us $65,000 to build that house with. $65,000.
That seems like so little now.
Well, yeah, but your dad and Wayne
But
Groove
when you consider,
and Doug and Dave Miller.
Yeah, so much
we
community
built
help,
this
yeah.
house, the 2 garages out back, the deck, the concrete work, the new dining room table and chairs that we still have, the bedroom set, and we didn't have but about $90,000 in this all of that house plus the $5,000 that was basically separated for this lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had to separate. We had to put a dollar amount, so we paid $5,000 for this lot.
Even back then, they were going for $100 a frontage foot,
Yeah.
which would have been $95,000 for this part here that's on ours.
But Dorothy had to have an amount,
Yeah.
and so she let us decide what the amount was. But that's how we did it.
Well, that way, put a lot of it over on the tax deductible side too.
Yeah.
We've always done things like that. But that's what's helped realize the stream, and a lot of hard work.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, you put a lot of sweat equity into everything here. I mean, even, you know, when it comes to all the, you know, the boats and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, the pontoon is old, but it does fine. The boat's old, but it does fine. I mean,
But
the
that's
Wave Runner's the
actually
newest
our-
thing out there.
Yeah.
And the old one went 30 seasons before
Yes,
it,
it
you know,
did.
and it still was running
But
when
that's
it
the
got
third
done.
boat we've owned. But you know, between '91 and '95,
first echelon
we
didn't last
owned
very
3
long.
boats.
Yeah. The
We
one that
probably
the guy
still
ran
had the
into.
other one if it hadn't got creamed by a wave runner.
Yeah.
You were there for that.
I remember.
The second
Yeah.
one was the one that got creamed.
Yeah,
The
we
first
had the
echelon.
F3. We traded it for the Echelon because they were the best, and it still is one of the best barefoot inboards on the market. And then you was with us. We got hit by that wave runner,
Yeah, looking right over his shoulder coming
and
out of
then
Idle
we ended
Grove.
up, you know, between insurance and that, we got the '94, which she bought. Why is up deer hunting?
Well, we worked on
We-
the deal, and then I
Yeah,
went
but
and
she
finished
closed it all out and
Yeah.
everything. So when we come back, we just went. He came up from Florida with that boat. We took the other one down there. We switched cars around and went into Chili's and made the deal. And he went back to Florida, and we went
The
come
thing
home with
about
the other
this, you
boat.
and Hillary, you were there 98% of the time
Yeah.
because you didn't have any place else to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like why we went on all the Lowe's trips and all that stuff because we were little. I mean, we were tiny little kids. I mean, shoot, this is
And there was
You
no
know.
place, there were nobody to keep you for.
ancient history now. I mean,
Yeah, but that's why, because you were just a part of the whole, I mean,
I'm
whether you wanted to be or not.
I mean, you know, basically now it's a good $1.3 million, $1.4 million, maybe $1.5 million property.
yeah.
And
You're talking about overall.
yeah, all of it
And for
together.
130,000.
I mean,
that's
it
10X,
it
that's not too
boggles my
bad.
mind that people are paying $700,000 and $800,000 for teardowns, and
Yeah.
you know, but at the time when we bought this, I mean, we were stretching it.
stretching. Okay. We had the house in Logansport on 25 North. We had a rental we had just bought on a VA loan over by DNR on the west side of Logansport.
The one you assumed from.
The
The
VA.
last
We
assumable
still
VA
had
loans.
we still had Plum Street. We had a mortgage payment on Wolf Point Drive.
Yeah.
We had the cottages with all of this. So we had like 5 properties we were paying for.
I mean, until we built
And 2
Business-
little kids.
the
Business was good.
till we
Your
built the
dad's help
garages,
was-
we
your
had we
dad's
stored the
help was
boat down
really
at Plum
good.
Street.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
taking
It was
that.
kind
that
of a trick getting it
that,
in there.
yeah, that Tetris operation to get it in that back alley and in that big sliding door.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was.
But when you figure we've been partners for these finances for all these years, Dad's good health and ability has been the saving grace here, because really look at all the hard work and all the coordination and all of that he's done. I mean, we've done it together, but I have my strong points and he has his, but we've pretty much been like-minded about the investments and the quality of what we want to do, and I have a harder
Like,
time
people
spending money.
we built that entire house on credit card and never paid a dime interest.
Or an annual fee.
yeah.
Yeah.
Annual fees and automatic DQ for a credit card.
That's right. But you see, that's what we did, because Dorothy gave us the money,
And then
I just manipulated the card.
made it stretch. You know, basically
Good
what you
practice.
borrow 1 month, you could stretch out to 2 or 3 months before you had to pay it off.
And Dad
And that
didn't know
let
any
her
of that.
money draw some interest till we had to use it to pay for that part of the building the house. I mean, she's the finagler on that. She talks about, but
He doesn't know any of it.
I
He
don't
doesn't
know
know
anything. But
that I'm doing.
I guarantee you, with what we get from Kroger, what she saves the coupons on gas and all this other credit card manipulation, she easily probably makes us between $600 and $800 a month on average.
But we've worked. The thing is about all of it, and you wanted to know about how we got here. We started off our relationship with God as the center of everything, and we've lived that way. We've prayed, we've dreamed, but Dad's the dreamer. I just have been the one that's followed up to help him accomplish his dream, and it's been all of that.
So before we run out of light here, now that we know how everything started, fast forward 35 years, looking back on everything that has happened, all the developments, all the skiing, all the friendships, all the people you've met, all the, all the boats, the wave runners, the changes around the lake. What do you think all this, if you look back to those days when it started, what do you think has been the biggest change, and what has this experience and having this available to you for all this time come to mean to you after all these years?
Well, it's a family thing. That's all there is to it. I mean, I love to ski.
Biggest changes, though. Biggest changes. Our whole life, we've had changes, but through our whole married life, we've had a lot of ups and downs. We have, but they've been overall smooth. I don't know. I think the biggest change was when we left Logansport and came here. That was really a difficult decision to do.
Yeah.
But we had the potential. Dad had the business that could do that. We did that for family. And when you talk about...
Well, the friend, like say Dave Miller,
Yeah.
built my business up here.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew all the people in the right places, and when I started doing stuff for him, I mean, he just passed the word around, and that's
Was he
why I
a
got the
geezer?
business here, even though I still have stuff otherwise. But, a great majority, most of my income now is from here in Rochester. It ain't from Logansport.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
But we were able, the friendships we had on Wolf Point.
I mean, God just put the right people in the right places for us.
Yeah,
We
we've
did our
met,
best to listen to him, and I
yeah.
know we didn't listen perfectly, but, we always still put our trust in him, even though sometimes you miss the point.
But the overall biggest thing is the people that we have met, the family. And they've mattered with you and Hillary, too.
All the people who come for summer rental.
Yeah, the people that you guys have been around that have influenced you. You're the way you are because of the people that we've chosen to be around.
Well, these people,
really.
You had the Millers, you had the Bellows,
You had the groups.
you had the Groobs.
Well, you had the little old ladies, remember?
Yeah.
And you used to hug them, and
Right,
you'd
but,
be
I mean, with the exception
Darnell
of
and Betty
like
and
the
Louie
Groobs, and
Bill.
very few,
Yeah.
even most of the people who come here, they were original two parents with all the kids. We told you that a long time ago. You're going to be a minority having only two parents and two sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
Well, but that's it, and it's all centered around families. That's where our strength has been. When you talk about...
I mean, it's been, it's nice having the little kids again. It's been kind of a dry thing, and we did our thing. But now, we got Oak, we got Grayson, we got our two grandkids.
Sonny that just
And when
loves
you come back-
Catherine.
Yeah,
And now we're
where we
getting-
had all those kids down there
Mm-hmm.
with you guys, we're now starting to get into another generation, which is really kind of cool.
Well, now then, Brett and Terry's little grandson, Cal, and the little girl, if they stay here another 6.5 years, as they say they hope to, we'll get to see them grow. But when you talk about what it means to us today, this is what it means.
Well, that big Catholic family used to come.
Rumblers?
Well, they were
The
Catholic.
ones that had
yeah.
all the boys from
all the
Cathedral
boys
and
from
Ron
Cathedral,
yeah.
Play in the lake, go play basketball. Play in the lake, go play basketball.
Oh, man, I
all
played
day
so much
long.
basketball with those guys.
You remember? It looked like a used car lot when they were all here because their family was
Oh,
so
yeah.
big they had cars parked
I
everywhere.
can't remember what their name was, but
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and even
I should have
they were
journaled.
so tall.
in Rhodes, that was always a neat deal when they'd show up.
And the
always
back
had
cottage.
Stockardies, even
yes.
though they had handicapped kids, that was still neat.
Yeah,
They were
Watch
great.
them sit out here and fish, catch 1,000 fish in a month.
yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
They taught us about family.
Well,
Needed
they
that.
always took
I
you
needed
in, like,
that.
you know,
I needed that. So, but the thing is, when you talk about what it means now, I was telling you the other day, I was sitting out here, I was thinking, it's the lake. It pulls everybody together. Yes, you probably would have come home if we lived in the country and you'd been raised there. But this gives other activities to be involved in. It brings family together for those activities. The water is a lure. Any place in the world, and you've said it yourself, it's a special kind of place to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think last summer especially, I know Hillary and I had a moment when we were out there skiing with Catherine, the three of us all out there at once. And she and I looked at each other, and I know we knew what that feeling was when we looked at each other. And it was just an overwhelming sense of things coming full circle. because we remember when we were her, you know, and now she's, you know, it's like the next generation, like you said.
Well, and it's like she said too, she told Catherine, when you're raised here, it feels differently. But in that moment, it was different. It was special again with you three out there. You get used to it. You get relaxed with it. You take it for granted.
Well, like I say, we sit out here. I mean, I tell everybody, it's like you're on vacation every day, even though you got to go to work, but when you come home, there's something different about being able to sit out here and just watch it. Yeah. And evidently everybody, I mean, with everybody wanting lakefront and the prices going up like it is, I'm sure there's a lot of other people, they got their reasons for it, but we always vacationed at the lake. We always, and then when Mom and Dad basically give that up, that's when we started having our,
separations.
And, where that wasn't a skiing lake, there was all the kids, all the fun that we had, and you were part of that too.
I was.
And your uncle lived up here, and your aunt, or at Bruce Lake.
Yeah, just a couple trailers
So
away from your
it
parents.
was just, even though it wasn't all necessarily lake activity, it was always centered around the lake.
Yeah.
So that pretty much, does that tell you what you want to know?
Well, I mean, I just like to see your guys' perspective on it. I mean, I know what mine is, and I know just like you said, when I come out here and I look at things and I, think about just like.
Well,
there's a lot of time spent out here. This lake is a part of me. It's a part of us. It's a part of the fabric of the story of our family.
It is. It's a big part of it.
And that's, it's hard to describe to someone who never had
It's
that.
like you said, you had that friend that talked to you and said, you really do go to a lake.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I really do know what you're talking about. I was raised on a lake.
But the one person that could relate to that, I think this is how everybody lives.
Just like when we was talking with Kathy, from early on, it was always, we'd go up to Uncle Cecil's cottage on Crooked Lake, and it was just always something special.
Yeah.
I mean, we had different things, and Dad and them, they lived out in Little Hoover and showed you the house, but they were all outdoor. They camped out on the river all summer. They had a camp there, and they'd lived there all summer on the Eel River, being around the water and fishing and hunting and trapping. And we just kind of took it to another level with getting on a lake that you could ski and do all that too. And
makes you sort of wonder why people don't think it's special. I mean, I sort of take it for granted, and I said, well, I could take it or leave it. But when you came home this summer, one of the first things I saw you do was you walked out here immediately, and you walked out. And I thought to myself, well, he's home. He just wants to reconnect.
Well, it's just like, I mean, even snowmobiling in the winter, it's just something special about having a place on a lake up north.
Yeah.
Even though you're not supposed to be on it.
No, you can be on it once it's frozen.
No, you're not supposed to.
Who says that?
Me.
No. That lake never swallowed anybody yet. Other
Okay.
lakes have.
But anyway, we hope to, and this is the perfect location as we get older. Dad wants to start not doing so much. But as far as the house, my gosh, what more convenience could it be? For one level. And
I mean, as far as if a whole family came here, yes, it's a little crowded as far as sleeping space, but we'll just make it work.
Well, Hillary and Chad can bring their trailer now.
Yeah. And there may be a time when we'll keep one of, like maybe that middle house, we'll just stop renting it if everybody wants to come more often. I mean, we ain't going to do it if it's only once or twice a year that everybody's here.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to have extra space. We got the place to expand into if we want to, and just keep that as or if we know when that's going to happen, and but there's all kinds of possibilities, and there's possibilities we ain't even thought of yet.
For the next 35 years.
We'll let Catherine think of those. She keeps coming up with them. Yeah.